He wasn't a monster hiding in the dark. He was a soft-spoken boy next door, invisible, polite, and always alone. But inside him, something was growing. Something that would one day lead to murder, mutilation, and cannibalism. This is the terrifying story of Jeffrey Dahmer, the man the world would come to know as the Milwaukee Monster. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was the first of two sons born to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. From the outside, the Dahmers seemed like a typical Midwestern family, hard-working, middle class, and quietly living their lives in suburban America. But something beneath the surface was already starting to crack, and inside young Jeffrey, something even darker was brewing. As a child, Jeffrey was quiet and introverted. He rarely smiled in photographs and often seemed lost in his own world. Family members later described him as a sweet but distant boy. But by the age of 4, he had already undergone double hernia surgery, an event some speculate may have caused trauma. Shortly after that, his behavior started to change. He became fascinated with dead animals. Not in a scientific, curious way, but with an eerie sense of obsession. He would collect roadkill, dismember them in the woods near his home, and store bones in jars. His father, a chemist, once showed him how to bleach bones for cleaning yard gesture, meant to nurture curiosity, but which unknowingly fueled Jeffrey's growing darkness. At school, Dahmer was often alone. He was bullied for being awkward and unathletic. He began drinking heavily in his early teens, sometimes even hiding alcohol in his school locker. Teachers noticed, but no one intervened. His parents' marriage was deteriorating, full of loud fights and long silences. Eventually, they divorced, and Jeffrey was left alone in their Ohio home at the age of 18. It was during this time that his violent fantasies became overwhelming. He later confessed that he began imagining dominating, unconscious men fantasies that combined control, sex, and death. The line between fantasy and action blurred quickly. He was about to cross it. On June 18, 1978, Jeffrey Dahmer committed his first murder. He picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks, a young man who was on his way to a concert. Dahmer lured him to his home with the promise of drinks and conversation. 4 hours, they talked and drank beer. But when Stephen decided it was time to leave, Jeffrey panicked. The thought of being left alone was unbearable. So he grabbed a dumbbell and struck Hicks from behind. Then, he strangled him to death. After killing him, Dahmer dismembered the body in the basement. He crushed the bones and scattered them in the woods behind the house. It was a gruesome act carried out not by a criminal mastermind, but by an 18-year-old boy spiraling into darkness. What's more disturbing is how normal life seemed to carry on afterward. Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State University later that year, but dropped out due to poor grades and drinking. In 1979, he joined the U.S. Army and served as a medic in Germany. For a while, it seemed like a fresh start, but his demons followed him. Reports from fellow soldiers revealed that Dahmer's drinking was out of control. Some even accused him of drugging and assaulting them, stories that would only come to light years later. He was discharged in 1981 and returned to the U.S. a broken man. He bounced from job to job, city to city. Arrests for indecent exposure and public drunkenness piled up. But behind the petty crimes was a monster slowly coming back to life. By the time the 1980s ended, Jeffrey Dahmer had already tasted murder, but no one, not the police, not his family, not even his victims, had any idea what he was truly capable of. When Dahmer returned to Milwaukee in 1981, he moved in with his grandmother. She was one of the few people he had a real connection with. For a time, her presence seemed to calm him. He attended church, helped around the house, and tried to stay clean. But the darkness inside him hadn't gone away, had simply been waiting. By 1984, Dahmer's twisted fantasies returned. He began visiting gay bars and bathhouses, searching for men he could drug and control. He was banned from several establishments after victims reported being drugged, but charges were never filed. The signs were there. Authorities missed them. In 1987, the killing resumed. His second victim was Stephen Twomey, a man Dahmer met at a bar. They checked into a hotel room together. But what happened next was hazy even to Dahmer. He later claimed he had no memory of killing Twomey, only that he awoke to find his lifeless body beside him. Panic didn't set in. Instead, Dahmer dismembered the body and transported it back to his grandmother's house in a suitcase. There, he disposed of the remains over several days, boiling flesh off bones, grinding up pieces, and storing body parts. It was the beginning of a deadly pattern. From 1987 to 1991, Dahmer murdered at least 16 more young men, many of them Black, Asian, or Latino, and from marginalized communities. He often met them at bus stops, bars, or on the street. He'd lure them home with promises of money or modeling gigs. Once inside, he drugged them. Then came the killings. But Dahmer's crimes weren't just about murder. He began experimenting, posing bodies, taking photos, keeping trophies. He preserved skulls, hearts, and genitalia. He tried to create zombies by injecting acid into his victims' brains, hoping to make them submissive, mindless companions. His grandmother eventually asked him to leave after noticing strange smells and behavior. In 1990, he moved into the now infamous apartment 213 at the Oxford Apartments on North 25th Street in Milwaukee. With full privacy, his killings accelerated. Neighbors complained about foul odors, strange noises, and even power tools being used at night. One woman reported hearing screams. Yet each time the police visited, Dahmer calmly explained it away. Neat, bad plumbing, nothing serious. But the nightmare was growing. Behind the locked door of apartment 213 was a house of horrors, photos of dismembered bodies, drums of acid, a fridge containing human remains, and Jeffrey Dahmer was far from finished.